guys? Anna here with Pro Watercraft. Today I brought in my personal Kawasaki SX-R 1500 so we can go over some of the really awesome Pro Watercraft handling components that we have for this ski. Now, if you guys were anything like me, I came from like an SXR 800, SXR 1100, and when I got this ski, I was expecting that because of its size that it was going to be a lot more stable than the SXR 800 and 1100 because obviously they're so much smaller. But much to my surprise and a little bit to my disappointment, this ski actually had a lot of instability handling quirks when I first got it that made it really uncomfortable to ride. Especially with the extra power that the SXR 1500 has, that instability that it has in its stock form made it really uncomfortable because you want to tap into the power, but it gets to be such a white knuckle ride when you're kind of all over the place and unstable that you really don't get to tap into the power like you want to. With that being said, Pro Watercraft has come out with some great components to really iron out the instability with the ski, make it a lot more comfortable. And at that point, once you get comfortable, it becomes way easier to really start ripping the ski around and getting into that wicked 1500 power. So when I first got my SXR 1500, the very first thing that I noticed that made me uncomfortable was what we at Pro Watercraft like to call the death wobble. At low speeds, mid-range, and also at high speeds, the SXR 1500 has a tendency to kind of rock back and forth. This is more than likely because of the really high center of gravity because of that really tall SXR 1500 motor. And in order to solve that and make the ski a lot more stable, we came out with an updated version of our SXR 1500 rear sponsons. So first off, one of the things that's really cool about the Pro Watercraft 1500 rear sponsons is that you don't need new hardware and you don't have to drill holes. These are going to be a direct replacement to the OEM rear sponsons that come on the ski. So all you have to do is take the old ones off, keep the bolts, put them in the new sponsons, and you're ready to ride. As far as handling goes, if you're going to do anything to your SXR 1500, the first thing that I recommend is putting a pair of these on. For me, it completely eliminated the uncomfortable death wobble, and I was able to go a lot faster and feel a lot more comfortable, especially in the corners and in my straight lines. I even tried this out with the stock ride plate to start out with, and it worked pretty good with that. As I got a little bit faster, started pushing a little bit harder, the stock plate wasn't really able to hold up to the corners, so then I ended up upgrading the ride plate. But again, the very first thing you should do to one of these skis, I definitely think it's a set of these. These are going to be a lot wider and they hang down a little bit lower than the stock rear sponsons, and that's going to give you a lot more stability and it's going to eliminate that weird death wobble that we were talking about earlier. The other benefits of these rear sponsons, it's kind of hard to see, but up underneath here we have a little bit of a lip, and what that's going to do is as you roll into turns, it's going to help keep the back end locked down so you're not spinning out, and it gives you a lot more fluid turns than running it either without the rear sponsons or with the stock rear sponson. So like I said earlier, you're probably going to want to start out with our rear sponsons, but after you run those for a while with the stock plate, you may notice as you're getting more comfortable, you're cornering harder, you're using more gas, you may see the back end slide out every once in a while. If that happens, then you're going to want to look into a ride plate. When it comes to our ride plate, I've tested it side by side with a handful of other ride plates, and this one definitely had a lot of rear grip. So if you feel like you're spinning out a lot, I definitely recommend one of these. When it comes to grip, what you're going to want to look at is going to be the shape of the plate. So a flatter plate is usually going to be faster, but it's going to want to slide out. So as you can see here, our plate has a lot more curvature to it than some of the other plates out there, and that's definitely going to help keep the back end sucked down by letting the water travel across it a little bit slower, and then you'll feel it in the turn. The other thing that I noticed compared to some of the other plates was the fluidity. Now, it's kind of hard to explain, but when I rode the stock plate, it felt like I had a harder time carrying a lot of speed through the turns really smoothly. I wasn't really carving turns so much as I was making kind of sharp pointed turns, which isn't always what you want to be doing. When I switched over to this plate, it definitely felt a lot more fluid through the corners. I had an easier time carrying more speed. And again, explaining the fluidity is a little bit tough. It's one of those things where when you try it, you'll definitely be able to feel it. I'm just going to come right out and say it. The stock mats on the SXR 1500 absolutely suck. If you're anything like me, when I was riding with the stock mats, the shortness of the mat on the side was rubbing into my ankles. It absolutely hurt. They felt a little bit slippery. There was no cushioning, so I felt like I was standing on concrete when I was riding it. And switching the mats is definitely a really big upgrade. We here at Pro Watercraft definitely love jet trim, some of the highest quality mats in the game, so many color options, so many options for handling, but we have a particular setup that we really like on the SXR 1500 and most stand-up watercraft. So this is the setup that we typically run. It has, as you can see, it has some lifters in the front and the back for you to kind of lock into. Not quite like a foothold, but something that gives you a little bit more leverage when you're laying the ski over into the turn, keeps your feet from slipping out from under you. We like to run a hump up in the front. Again, you can kind of brace against it to use it for leverage and to keep your feet from sliding out from underneath you. We also like to run a race rib. As you can see here, there's ribs in different areas in the tray. Gives you something for your knee to push against when you go to get in the tray, or if you're doing starts, like if you're racing. And also when you switch your feet back and forth, it keeps your feet from sliding out back behind you, because if you've been on one of these skis, you know how fast they are. There's sometimes you'll get into a spot where you get into the gas and your feet want to fly out from behind you. This will help you with that. And it also feels a lot better than the stock mats, and it looks better, right? All right, so a quick and easy upgrade for the SXR 1500 is going to be swapping out the bars and grips. You can do this on the stock handle pull or on an aftermarket handle pull. Typically, we recommend ADA Racing extended handlebars. That's something that we carry here on stock, and we run it on all of our skis. We have both 0 and 4 degree. When it comes to the degree of the handlebars, it's really just personal preference. Aside from the bars, we like to run an ODI grip. Again, that's something that we have here on our website. You can order it from us directly. It's just an upgrade from the stock setup, you know? It's something that's pretty easy to do yourself. You shouldn't need too much help with it, and it just feels better. It's like a new pair of shoes. So lastly, aside from the jet trim, the handle pull is probably going to be one of the biggest upgrades on the ski price-wise. Typically, it's something that we recommend kind of last. You know, you usually want to start with the handling parts because they're going to change the handling the most on this ski. But the stock handle pull, it's heavy. It's awkward, it's uncomfortable, it wears you out. If you don't want to go all the way to a new handle pull, I would suggest starting out with a handle pull spring. That's going to make it a lot lighter. The stock handle pull will make the stock handle pull a lot lighter. We do carry those here at Pro Watercraft. It's a fairly easy install, and it's not going to cost you as much money as a complete handle pull. With that being said, when you're ready to get rid of your stock handle pull, we have 2 options here at Pro Watercraft that are awesome. First, we have the Pro Light handle pull. It's going to be lighter and a little bit shorter than stock, so it's not as tiring, and you get a little bit better performance out of it because it'll move your body position further forward on the ski. It's a fiberglass and carbon fiber hybrid, so it's not as expensive as some of the other handle pulls on the market. It's actually about half the price of most of your aftermarket handle pulls that are adjustable. And it's going to be a little bit more durable, and you're going to get some more performance out of it. And you don't have to worry about ditching your fuel lights because we can cut some holes in them for you to run it on there. Our other option, which is more of a performance handle pull, is going to be our Ultra pull. This pull we designed with racing in mind. A lot of the other aftermarket adjustable handle pulls out on the market weren't originally designed for racing and racing performance. They're designed for other things like freestyle and free ride. And so we came out with this pull because we wanted something that was more for the shredders out there that want to get the most shredding performance out of their handle pull. So on the Ultra pull, the pivot bolt is in a better location, so you get a little bit more control over the front end of the ski when you go from turn to turn. It doesn't have any flex in it like the stock pull because of what it's made out of. And the best part, the most important part, is the adjustability of the handle pull. So this gives you a lot more room to kind of play with where you're at in the tray. You can move it further forward or further backward to get more adjustability out of it. So if you guys are anything like me, you want to make sure you take the best care of your stuff. With the 4-stroke, you'll want to keep up on maintenance, oil changes, stuff like that. And a great way to do that is to monitor your hours with one of our shred meters. This guy can mount either right on the dash with the adhesive, or you can zip tie it somewhere in the motor. It has a couple different sensitivity levels, so you can track how many hours you spend riding your ski. The sensitivity levels help keep track of just the ride time and not necessarily the time that the ski spends going down the highway. I also like to use mine to make fun of my friends because I ride more than them. So this is really great. It's about 20 bucks on our website and really easy to install, and it can save you a lot of hassle of trying to calculate how many hours are on your motor. Another kind of convenience item that we have is going to be our fuel gauge. Not quite sure what Kawasaki was thinking when they put a black gas tank all the way up in the nose of the ski. Other than the fuel light, you really have no idea how much fuel you have, and even when the fuel light comes on, you still don't quite know how much fuel you have. So this is really nice. It attaches to the gas cap, either stock or aftermarket, and it'll sit down in your gas tank so you can pull it out and see just how much gas you actually have. So definitely recommend picking one of these up, even if you just use it like a dipstick. It's a lot more convenient than trying to kind of play the guessing game and then getting stranded out on the lake in the middle of nowhere. Definitely don't want that to happen. If you feel like your ski hops around a lot in the water, and when I say hop, I mean like the entire ski comes up out of the water when it's choppy out, you probably want to invest in a new intake grate. The stock intake grate on the ski really isn't that great in the choppy water, so when it comes to intake grates, we recommend the Watercraft of Texas. It's affordable, works great, hooks up awesome in the chop, and it gives you a little bit of braking when you come into the turn, which makes the turns a little bit easier to control. This is something that we do sell on our website. We usually keep it in stock. Kind of like the ride plate, pull the old one out, 4 bolts, and you're ready to rip. If that 1500 cc's stock isn't pushing out enough power for you, we have something that'll help you get a little bit more power without having to mess with the motor. If you're anything like me, when it comes to the motor, I like to take my sweet time when I'm modifying. So this is a great way to get a little bit of extra top speed out of your ski without actually messing with the motor. This is going to be one of our pump tunnel stuffers. What it does is it's going to silicone up into the pump tunnel, which is where your intake grate is, and it's kind of like putting your thumb over the edge, over the end of the garden hose. It's going to help maximize your water flow from the intake out to the pump. You'll usually pick up about anywhere from 1 to 2 miles per hour, and it's also going to help the ski drive a lot better because you're going to be pushing water much better through the intake. It's a little known fact that there's actually a little bit of performance to be gained by taking off the stock bumper rails on your ski. Not only do they look ugly and get beat up over time, but they can create a little bit of drag and make your turns not as smooth. So we have this really nice 3M adhesive bumper rail that can just stick right onto the edge. It fits up so nicely, looks cleaner, gets you a little bit smoother corners, and you'd be surprised how big of a difference it makes. Installing it is not terribly difficult. The most difficult thing about it is pulling off the stock bumper rails, and then all you have to do is stick these bad boys on. The other nice thing about it is that you get to remove those ugly corner bumpers off the back of the ski, and those can create a lot of drag, which can slow you down a little bit, and it just looks a lot cleaner without them. So we do have the bumper rail available for the SXR 1500. Not terribly expensive and not too difficult of an install.